Welcome to Two Guys.
A girl.
And an MBA.
Pakistan and India agree to immediate ceasefire in Kashmir. If you've been following the news lately, India and Pakistan were having disputes and there were people killed in the Kashmir zone for the first time since I can remember, 10, 20 plus years. Isvar, that's your heritage, right? That for
Oh
you.
my Lord, really? I think my family left there like 200 years ago. I have no idea. But I mean, it happened pretty like fast. There's a ceasefire this morning. I think they were launching drone attacks. They've disputed this border, the Kashmir region. But I think it all started with I think it's extremists who went and killed, I think, 24 Indian tourists in that area. And he identified as being Pakistani. So then India launched counter-offensive, and then Pakistan launched drones. And, they're both nuclear powers. And I think this morning, Donald Trump, and here he is again, announced a 30-day ceasefire between India and Pakistan. But I think the challenge for everybody is that, and this has always been a question for me, when a guy who says he's Pakistani commits or an Indian commits a crime, is it the government that sanctioned it, or was it an extremist group, or was it an individual action? But it seems like soon as you identify as a country, it brings your country into an entire conflict. And I always people never ask that question. Was it sanctioned by the Pakistani government, the 24 people I think killed, or was it an extremist group? And I think a lot of commentators are saying, like, how do we control for these groups within the country that might not represent the political will? Because Pakistan is 1/10 the size of India. There is no war that they can win. They've lost, I think, three
Yeah.
already to India, and they're not going to win it. So I guess that's what my thoughts are as being a brown guy on the panel.
I can add from my perspective because now I understand better, understood better when like a war in Ukraine happened and how countries think, oh, it's so far, far from us. I think Pakistan and India thought, I don't care anymore. And for me now, I understand something happened, war, they attacked each other. And for me, I still don't understand all details, all nuances. Who is really like to blame to start? Pakistan, yes, or maybe India, or maybe both looks like okay. So for me, it's a tricky. And when even you try to read different resources, it's hard to make a whole picture, understand where is the truth. And yeah, so now maybe I better understand some people who cannot 100% explain what is going on in Ukraine-Russia war. The same for me, like Pakistan, India, oh my God, it's war, but who? who is the aggressor? India, he started the full invasion, or maybe Pakistan who provoked it or killed this tourist. And again, as Isfar said, is it only part of people, and government of Pakistan just didn't do a good job to prevent it, and that's why they're not right. They don't. They allow extremist groups be on the country territory. So the police and military didn't do a good job in this direction. Or it's India who is overreacted. Instead of diplomatics, they said, hey, dear Pakistan, it's not right. Let's think about how we can catch and prevent this in the future. Just start to attack with weapons and everything, and drones and missiles. So yeah, it's like, wow, you should have more education maybe. You should be journalists, politics, military background to understand fully what is going on.
Well,
and what the context and the
the
consequences.
New York Times is considered the paper of record, right? So it's saying Trump announced Saturday that after 4 days of the most widespread fighting between the nuclear-armed neighbors in decades, that after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I'm pleased to announce India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire in all caps, right? And the disputed territory was Kashmir, so there's been fighting about that kind of shared region for decades. That's where most of the conflicts after Pakistan broke away from India, over 50 years ago or something, right? And that area has been disputed. And now there were skirmishes there. And it seems, I had a professor at Hopkins this was about the Israel-Palestine conflict, but he said he had a theme about politics in general. He said all politics is local. And if you look at it, this Times is saying, there's an environment of hyper-nationalism in India. They've voted in this Modi, who is kind of a strongman figure, and some of his followers seem pleased with the aggression, as they call it. Has kept an aggressive stance on Pakistan, trying to squeeze and isolate it for most of his decade in power. And his base seems satisfied with the military action that ended Saturday. We voted for a strong man. He has proved himself. And, the way he's justifying it seems to be what Elena was alluding to, terrorism. He's basically, the deterring terrorist threats from Pakistan. We have left India's history to ask, what advantages were gained. So you wonder, what are the actual terrorist activities that are to be deterred? Or is this like just a action to pander to his base locally in India because maybe he's having domestic issues, with his population locally? I don't know enough about the politics of the region to comment on that, but that's what the Times had to say. What do we think about that?
Yeah, it's Indian nationalism rooted in religion, which is the predominant religion is Hinduism.
Yeah.
And Hinduism, it kind of goes against the doctrine of Hinduism. I'm not a Hindu. My dad is, kind of. I studied it, but it's about accepting everybody. But this is where politics merges with populism, but merges with policy, right? Where if the majority of people identify as one belief, and Donald Trump has the same type of strategy. He has his own base. India has their base of pro-national Hindus. The violence between those two groups is constant, even within India itself, which is I don't want to speak too much about it because I'll probably get hate comments. It's not my war, but it's what you're saying. It's politics. He had to respond to the 24. It was crazy. Somebody just went in and shot tourists. And like Elena's saying, rather than diplomacy, rather than like getting down to the real truth of the matter, was this person representative? Like, I can't believe a government would sanction, the murder of people. I just, maybe I'm naive, but I'm not. I just think it just doesn't make sense. And I think we kind of missing that. You can see parallels between what's happening in Israel, parallels happening in Ukraine, parallels what's happening. This is kind of the same thing, right? Where we're not sure, but we know that people are dying. So it's averted, but there's already rumors that each side is still launching, or somebody's launching missiles back and forth across this disputed area. So the danger of this is we've got two fully armed countries that don't like each other. I don't know if I kind of watch some Indian movies. My dad used to watch it, and there's always this anti-Pakistan thing in Indian movies. Like, they're the bad guys all the time. And it's like propaganda and that slow drip, constantly, hypnotizing people to think the enemy are those guys over there. And Elaine, you always talk about the black arts or whatever, Netflix, black, whatever the black thing is, the slow drip of stuff. And you're like, oh my God, they must be the evil people. But I don't know where that one's going to go. That's I hope it stops.
Maybe for a year or two or 10 or 5. Yeah. So just it happens time to time. Or maybe people just grow, evolution makes something better generation, and they can agree, discuss, and say, we don't want a war, we want love.
One love.
Please consider subscribing below.
Thank you for being with us. Please leave your comments, feedback, what you think about us, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.